Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttle with HurricaneTrack.com here. It's Monday, the 7th day of February, 2022, and you've tuned into the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. Of course, it's the off-season edition because it's still February, but that being said, we're only about 113 days away, something like that, from the start of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, and you never know, it might get started early like we have seen these last several years. The Eastern Pacific hurricane season officially begins in mid-May, so we're closing in on that, getting closer and closer to that period of time. So we do have a few things to talk about related to the upcoming hurricane season in today's discussion. We'll also look at some lower 48 weather stuff. At least this week, things are much quieter than we have seen in recent weeks. So let's get on with it. We'll start first with a tweet here from yesterday from the Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch, TAFB, down at the National Hurricane Center. What were they tweeting about? Well, all the heavy rain, 7 to 11 inches, and probably more than that since this tweet. They put the tweet out 10 a.m. yesterday morning. I was getting text messages from Carlos, who lives down in the San Juan area, and Brent over in St. John and the Virgin Islands, the USVI, about all this very heavy rain that was falling in the region, leading to some flooding, very dramatic social media posts related to that. And, dumped nearly a foot of rain, probably more than that, again, since the tweet was 10 a.m. yesterday. Very heavy rainfall, especially in the western suburbs outside of San Juan. Very dire situation. Good for the cisterns and the tanks, as they call it, for the fresh water. That's how they store a lot of their water, is in these tanks, as they call them. Good for that, but bad if you don't like flooding. And who does, right? So just goes to show you, even outside of hurricane season, these upper-level lows, cold air, upper-level troughs, cold air in the upper atmosphere interacting with the very warm air mass below, and that relates to this, a good segue into the sea surface temperature anomalies chart. The water temperatures in and around Puerto Rico, a little bit warmer than the long-term average. I wouldn't say alarmingly or exceedingly so, but warm enough that helped to provide a little bit extra buoyancy, a little bit more moisture, a little bit what we call PWAT, precipitable water values, and then that upper level energy kind of hanging around down there, that shear zone, creating that mayhem yesterday, pretty dire situation for that area. And it just goes to show you, that the whole Atlantic pretty much now warmer than average, especially the deep tropics here. Got the La Nina holding on in the Pacific, not much change there. Although this is starting to moderate just a little bit out here. We're slowly warming things up, coming down off that pretty solid La Nina. It's starting to transition a little bit, but I don't see much in the way of a signal to suggest that we're going to be barreling towards an El Nino, the opposite of this, the warming of the tropical Pacific. There are a few hints from some of the models, but models are one thing. When you just look out and look at things like the SOI, one of the indices that we watch, that's still pretty solidly positive right now. It was negative for a little bit in January, but it has rebounded. The SOI now positive. And just the overall pattern not suggesting a strong transition to what we call a positive ENSO event or an El Nino, to put it easy to understand. I just don't see it happening. Yes, it could still happen. That's not the same as it's not going to happen, and I guarantee it. I just don't see it in the cards right now. And that, coupled with the warm Atlantic, especially this main development region area, the cool Pacific holding on, we should have a very busy hurricane season once again. Probably not as busy as 20 and 21's seasons, but busy nonetheless. And this particular piece of guidance helps to sort of bolster that thought process. The CFS V2 climate forecast system updated today. Again, the ensemble mean here indicating La Nina holding on through the heart of the hurricane season. This has been very persistent and consistent. We haven't seen this waver a lot at all. If anything, since December, the overall ensemble guidance has trended lower in the sea surface temperatures for the tropical Pacific there, holding on to that La Nina possibly. Now, look, we got to get through what we call the spring predictability barrier between now and maybe the latter part of May. Well, we're not in spring yet, but this period coming up is volatile, and you can see some changes, pretty dramatic, in the way the models handle going through spring. It's a period of transition, and that's only a few weeks away, despite what the groundhog in Pennsylvania said. Spring is coming astronomically on the calendar, whatever, groundhog or not. So we'll watch and see how this progresses. But so far, the CFS V2 has been very consistent with its indication that we stay in La Nina into the heart of the hurricane season. Now, the Gulf still showing this warmth here, 26 Celsius right there. There's another one right there. These little islands. More solid area of 26 Celsius down in the southeast Gulf through the Straits of Florida. The rest of the Gulf still running quite a bit warmer than it should be. Colder along the shelf water regions, as you would imagine, since it's been pretty cold as of late. We got some freezes all the way down into the peninsula of Florida. I think that's made a few people that I know kind of happy for various reasons. So you've had a winter in Florida this year, but by and large, the Gulf still running above the long-term average, as we can see, especially in the central Gulf here. And this could have, I believe, pretty big ramifications on the upcoming severe weather season, because we'll eventually get that southeast ridge. The Bermuda High will set up like that. The wind will come around clockwise, pumping that warm, moist air across the Gulf into the lower 48, the nation's midsection, and we will still have these cold frontal intrusions coming down out of Canada. Cool, dry air with the jet stream, the southern branch coming in like that. The makings of a big severe weather season, I think, are there. We'll see. We look at what we had in December in Kentucky and vicinity, and then in Wisconsin and Minnesota just a few days after that. You remember that? That was terrible. That warm Gulf of Mexico had to play into that a little bit. The transport, the advection, the lateral movement of very warm, moist air, creating that instability, at least part of the ingredients for that. That still holds firm as we get towards severe weather season, which is only a few weeks away. Once we get into March, we start the severe weather season for the lower 48 in earnest. All right, this I want to show you. Oh, before that, water temperatures off the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic real quick. While they have cooled off up here because of the pretty substantial winter that we have observed and experienced over the last few weeks, despite that, yes, they have cooled off a little bit, these waters are still running above the long-term average, and that is remarkable. Something definitely going on in the Atlantic Basin, the way the circulation is, the warmth coming out of the deep tropics, circulating its way up through the loop current and up the Gulf Stream. It's all connected, and until we cool it off in the eastern Atlantic with strong trades, I guess the northwest Atlantic being connected to that conveyor belt isn't going to cool off either. So very warm Atlantic in the northwest corner there, holding strong. Now, this is the subsurface animation of the equatorial Pacific going back to the latter part of December. And you can clearly see that all of that cold, deep cold water eroding away, and you look at this warm blob coming in, so to speak. And by the way, this is the surface at the top right here. This is about 450 meters deep right there. Eastern parts of the Pacific over here, western parts of the Pacific on the left side, and this is like a slice right through there with buoy data and other temperature probes giving us an idea of the subsurface situation. Now you look at this and you think, man, look at that expansion of positive anomalies, this large plume of water, warmer than average, spreading its way from west to east over here. You might think, yeah, that's going to surface over here, and we're going to be in an El Nino before you know it. Well, to that I say, well, look at this area right through here. It's strong, and then it fades very quickly there. Not much staying power. And then another area trying to develop over here, but it's pretty far down at depth here. And yes, we're going to erode these cold anomalies away, absolutely. But I don't think, just looking at the overall pattern, again, the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, still remaining pretty positive right now. I just don't see it that we're going to get an El Nino, maybe warm neutral at worst or best, depending on how you look at it. Is the CFS right about the La Nina? Well, we don't know, but this is not a major threatening look to transition us into El Nino. These warm anomalies in the subsurface, they flare up and then they're kind of dying down just as quickly there within a matter of weeks. The staying power, the biggest indication to me, this is what I follow. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right, but one of the things that I have followed throughout my career, if the SOI, that index over there from Australia, the Bureau of Meteorology, if that tanks and goes below zero, it's just an index. It's not measuring anything. It's just an index like the stock market. If it is consistently negative, below 5 or 6 or 7 points for a while, weeks and weeks on end, then you start to set the stage for this El Nino potential to grow. So it's positive today, and it's been positive for the last several days. Had a little bit of negativity, a period of negativity in January, but it has rebounded. And in fact, I'll show it to you next week. We'll just open our discussion next week with the SOI. But this is an interesting look, a period of transition, no doubt, for the equatorial Pacific. We'll see where this goes. Now, related to all of this, over at our good friend Storm 2K, they are one of our partners on Patreon. And oftentimes, especially during the hurricane season, we cite or reference what people are talking about at Storm 2K. You remember before social media, we had message boards. Well, they're still alive and well, and there's some really sharp, smart, on top of it people over at the Storm 2K community, and they point different things out when they become available. And this is one of them. That the CANSIPs, again, I talked about that last week. That is that Canadian version of long-term guidance is a good way to just explain that. Sea surface temperature forecast, this is for August of this year. Very warm in the Atlantic overall. A little bit of a warm AMO look, what we call the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation. You get a little bit of a horseshoe look, kind of chilly up around Iceland. So it's not perfect, but still pretty warm in the Atlantic overall, with a definite cold look. Calm down, Mark, just slow it down. A colder look to the equatorial Pacific. So this is interesting. Back to what I said about the CFS. CFS V2, similar look. CANSIPS and its ensemble guidance, independent of the CFS V2, similar look. Cool Pacific. I didn't show you CFS V2 stuff for the Atlantic, but it's indicating a warm Atlantic generally as well. You start to go, we're only a little over 100 days away from the hurricane season, and these climate models, while not infallible, they've been doing better. In recent years, they really have. What does it show for September? That is definitely a pretty solid look for the Atlantic hurricane season, minus the warmer look up here. If this was all the way up into the far northeast Atlantic near Iceland, your classic positive AMO would be set. It's not quite there, so this doesn't scream 05, 2020, but it does suggest a busy season. 15, 17 named storms, maybe 8 hurricanes. Wouldn't surprise me at all. That's the kind of look, especially with a neutral to slightly cooler look to the Pacific equatorial region. Scrolling further down, different people talking about it, different ways that you can interpret things. And I like this, that they're talking about this area around the Gulf of Guinea in August and September. Did you notice that? That is right here. And in 2021, this area was a lot warmer. We called it, and some people referred to it, accurately so, as the Atlantic Nino. It's kind of a thing. The Gulf of Guinea was quite a bit warmer than the long-term average in 2021. And that tended to kind of drag the intertropical convergence zone further south. That warmer water tends to pull that ITCZ south. And so we had a lot more activity tracking south last year, and then all of a sudden, after Ida, really the hurricane season just shut off for the Atlantic. We had a non-existent Caribbean hurricane season in 2021. This look with the colder Gulf of Guinea is starting to get some attention. They're seeing it at the Storm 2K site, and I think other people will pick up on this as well. That, my friends, is a very interesting look right there as we get to September, because this would tend to favor the ITCZ being further north. And that leads me further down the pages here to what they're talking about. The European, it's also suggesting it's got a warmer overall Gulf of Guinea. So we'll see. But even the European suggesting not a very warm look to the Pacific over here. Not exactly La Nina, but definitely a warm look to the Atlantic. So the Euro is on board with the suggestion, at least early on, that we could have a busy season. But this right here is very interesting. The European seasonal outlook precipitation anomaly for June, July, August coming up. 51 ensemble members here. You see it? It's very easy. There is that look. The intertropical convergence zone showing up nicely through here. Strong tropical waves rolling off Africa, depositing the rainfall through here, and even a little bit of an anomaly through the Caribbean. Interesting look there. Maybe some activity along the southeast coast of maybe closer home-brewed systems. Hard to say. Just a general ensemble look, a fuzzy look. This is not clear. This is just way out in time. The model's interpretation of the patterns setting up for June, July, and August. In April, March and April, we'll get more guidance. And we'll get it from Ben Knoll, for example. Ben Knoll Weather, we hear from him often. I'll probably interview him and we'll talk about that. That's next month. And then April is just the month after. You know that. But we're getting there. We're starting to get some signals here from some of these more reliable, and they're getting better, models into the future. And then, as I teased, the NMME. Wow. This is the North American Multi-Model Ensemble. This goes out all the way through September. This is valid September 2022. This is Alex Borum put this together, cyclonicweather.com. He made this map from available data that's out there. I'm going to try to pull this graphic up so I can just show you independently of everything else. And this is indicating quite an active look to the Cape Verde activity. No doubt about it. Very strong look overall. Dry look in the equatorial Pacific. That is the setup for a busy hurricane season, no doubt. In the overall look here, this is so preliminary, like you can't look at this and go, oh no, it's going to be a terrible season. This is early, but it is planting the seeds, and we'll see, does this show the same thing a month from now, and then a month from that, and so forth and so on. But already, again, a few months out from the season starting here, just a little over 100 days, the seeds are getting planted here that it could be a fairly busy season in the Atlantic Basin, and just a little cutaway of it and different looks overall, conversation pieces about this. And yes, it is February. You never know. If we get a strong, positive North Atlantic oscillation with very strong trade winds in the Atlantic, things could change. And that SPB there, spring predictability barrier, a lot of caveats. That's the bottom line. But these are some interesting maps here. This is over at Storm 2K. I'll put a link to this thread directly in today's description of the video. All right, moving out of the tropics to lower 48 weather. We'll go through this pretty quickly here. Quiet, definitely quiet compared to where we have been. That's good. No big storms roaming the country right now. A little bit of winter weather up in New England, and they're used to it up there. They can handle it, but it's more garden variety. No big blockbuster bomb cyclones this week around. I thought I had, there it is, the GFS pulled up. Let's slide this over so that I can get the ending of my update for you here. All right, so just looking at the GFS out to a week. Again, a little bit of a weak nor'easter today. You can see that right there. Small, weak low pressure area moving up to the northeast. It's a nor'easter, but it's not strong. Some snow on the backside of it, but nothing you can't handle. Probably barely even plowable. Even if that. And then, finally, pretty quiet week ahead overall. No major storm systems anywhere across the lower 48, which is fine by me. It's been very busy recently, and I got a lot of stuff that I want to work on, and this will give me a chance to do that. So we're now out at 3 days out. This is February 10th, Thursday morning, and then finally Friday morning, Saturday morning, a little clipper system coming across the northern lakes. And then there's day 5, day 6, day 7. Maybe a little storm system we got to watch. Miller A trying to set up. Maybe. We'll see. That's far enough out into time that we don't have to worry about it. It's a signal. Not a very reliable signal because it's a week out, but we'll see what happens with that. I'm just glad that it's quiet for now. All right. Don't forget, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That is our main social media push. And I appreciate all of our back-end people from Kari and Tim and CJ and Mike and everybody else helping to keep the social media stuff running. Much appreciated. We're also on Patreon. And look, I want to tell you, we've introduced, it took me a year to get used to it and ready for it, this right here. And you know it if you already know it. You know what that is. It's Discord, baby. And I really like it. We've had a chat of our own that I've used since I think 2009 called Cbox. It's a very easy to integrate into a web page chat feature, but it's not very rich media. You know, it's limited. Discord, oh man, I love it. It's our own little private social media world. If you know Discord, you already use it in your gaming stuff, then you already know what I'm talking about. And this is it. We've integrated it in. It's available to all of our patrons, no matter what level you are on. So get involved. Head over to Patreon, get the app, or go on the website, patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. You can select a membership level. I might even go back and reactivate the $1 level, so at least it can get you on the Discord, and take advantage of that. Where'd it go? There it is. At the very least, in the $10 level, you get access to the cams and all of our exclusive content, and it just goes on and on from there. The $100 level is sold out. I appreciate that. Helps us to fund those big winter storm adventures, right? And then we have our business level, patron level. If you have a business you want to promote, we can even do that for you. Patreon is how we fund most of what we do. So head on over to patreon.com/HurricaneTrack and jump on the bandwagon. Get involved with this great community that we have grown substantially. I think I've been with them for about 5 years now, and it has really grown a lot and allowed us to do a lot. And it's almost time to really start thinking about hurricane season, and that's when we do the most of what we do. But it's been a very busy off season this year, that is for sure. Winter keeping us busy. All right, that is it from me for today. I'm going to sign off and put this on YouTube for you guys and Facebook. CJ does that for us. I appreciate that, Mr. CJ. You guys have a great rest of your Monday and a great rest of the week ahead. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day. I appreciate it. I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll reconvene again next week.